What's up, guys? Welcome to the second take. Sometimes people say the West Coast is the best coast, but we say the second take is the best take. I'm Zach.
I'm Jonah.
And we're two friends who disagree on everything that has ever happened and ever will happen in sports.
So, this is going to be the start of a podcast we're going to try to do weekly even when we're back at school. We're going to talk about all different sports. Basically every sport you could want us to talk about, we will be talking about it at some point. This podcast is going to focus on March Madness. We're going to go through our brackets. Just briefly go through each region, just like look at the games, what we think of the teams, and we're going to eventually get down through picking our whole brackets. So we met in 7th grade Spanish class, and we are probably the two most knowledgeable people that the other one knows about sports. And we've been fans of arch rivals in pretty much every sport our whole lives. You'll see in this college basketball podcast that he's a Duke fan, I'm a North Carolina fan. So that always creates for an interesting dynamic. I'm a freshman at Dartmouth, and Zach is a freshman at University of Maryland. So we're going to be doing these podcasts remotely in the future while we're at school. But we are live in my kitchen right now. So
enjoying our lovely spring break of March Madness.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's a great time to be home. So we're just going to get right to it with the South region.
So Kansas, Austin P.
I think
not much to be said.
Yeah, I think we can pencil in Kansas there. We'll talk a little bit more about Kansas later on.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely a easy pick.
Good team, hot right now. So we're going to move to the 8-9 matchup, good matchup, Colorado and Connecticut.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this, but I think that I'm a big fan of Connecticut here. I think that even though Colorado is very talented, UConn's getting hot at the right time. They're always good at March. They're very well coached. They have a lot of talent both in the front court and the back court. And I think
Kemba.
Yeah, exactly. That's obviously they have a well-deserved reputation for being good in March, and I think that they'll probably have enough here.
Yeah, Josh Scott's really good from Colorado. He's going to put up double in this game, no doubt about it. Colorado can shoot it a little bit, but UConn, I think, just has more talent and better coach. Not to spite Colorado, but I mean,
Kevin Ollie is a future NBA coach, in my opinion.
We're gonna go pencil in UConn in that game, and then we're gonna move to the dreaded 5-12 matchups. This one with my lovely school of Maryland against South Dakota State. Maryland has been very, very up and down this year. They have almost as much talent as teams like North Carolina do this year, but have hit a rough patch and need to get out of it if they want to do anything in March. I don't think this is going to be a game that they lose. Yeah, so Maryland I think is going to have too much for South Dakota State, but it is a little bit intriguing to me, having watched Maryland all throughout the season so far and seen them be so bad and so good against teams like North Carolina and Iowa, and then just lose to Michigan for no reason. But I think Maryland's going to win this one, and I think Jonah feels the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a team where we got 5 guys averaging over 10 points a game. That's something that's very valuable in a game like this, especially against a team like South Dakota State that has some talent, but they haven't handled a team like this before. They've only played one game against a team in the tournament, and that was a 12-point loss to a shaky Texas Tech team. So I like Maryland a lot in this game. I like them a lot in general. I think it's a really talented team. We'll get more into them later on.
Yeah.
But
the one thing to watch, South Dakota State has a pretty solid power forward. Not sure how to pronounce the name, to be honest with you. It's like Dame or something. But he draws 8 fouls per 40 minutes, which is a little bit unheard of. But Rob Carter is the best player you never heard of, and he's definitely going to be able to guard him, put up big numbers, and hopefully you'll hear a lot from him throughout the tournament.
Yeah, so we don't really think that this is your 12/5 upset.
Yeah.
You're going to pick one.
Yeah, I think we see the other 3 as more likely than we do this one.
We think probably Maryland is easily the best 5 seed in this tournament.
Yeah. We're supposed to be a 1 seed at the preseason, but that didn't happen, and we'll see what happens now.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to the 4-13, usually a pretty pretty close matchup in the past couple of years. But we got Cal and Hawaii here. A lot of people really high in Hawaii.
This is a very interesting game that a lot of people are talking about for an upset for Hawaii.
I think it comes down to the fact that most people have never seen either of these teams play.
That's true with West Coast after people's bedtime.
Yeah. But Cal has the talent for sure.
Cal is another one of the most talented teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
And, if they run into Maryland in the second round, that'll be a game with potentially several future NBA players.
Absolutely. Another team with 5 starters averaging over 10 points a game, which
is
great.
Positive.
Hawaii has a couple studs. Yankovic is a big guy, but can shoot a little bit, has a post game. Plays a little bit like Frank Kaminsky last year. Obviously not the same talent, but he's somebody to watch. Does like to get in foul trouble, which could be very bad against Cal because that could end quickly. They're good backcourt, bunch of seniors. One problem they're going to have is they cannot shoot the 3 whatsoever. Shoot 34% from 3.
Yeah, I mean, Cal is definitely very beatable. They've lost to Richmond, San Diego State. They're a team that's at times had trouble putting together all the talent that they have. But I think that Hawaii is just not the type of team that it's going to take to beat a team like California. I think we're going to get to UNC Wilmington later on, and they're like the type of streaky shooting team that would ultimately have a chance against Cal. But I just don't think Hawaii is the team that's going to end up beating Cal.
Yeah, I agree on that. They do cause some turnovers, and they speed you up big time, but I don't know that they can speed up a team like Cal, who's just very methodical and knows what they're doing. So we like Cal in that game. We're going to pencil them in. Then we're going to move to Jonah's favorite team against... Actually, no, we're going to move to the first 4 matchup.
Yeah, let's talk about the first 4.
Of Vanderbilt, Wichita State. What I think is probably the most intriguing matchup, at least early on in this tournament.
These are two very good teams that have gone under the radar towards the end of the season, at least. Wichita State
absolutely
wasn't so much at the beginning of the year, but they've been under the radar since they've had a couple of tough losses early on. But they've finished strong besides their conference tournament. And it's definitely a very talented team. If you're a watcher of college basketball, you've seen these guys. You've seen Ron Baker. You've seen Fred VanVleet. And they obviously have a lot of talented guard play. The big concern with them is Ron Baker is their leading rebounder.
And VanVleet's the second leading rebounder.
Right. And so when
neither of them are bigger than 6'5",
that is hitting 5.5 rebounds a game, that's going to be a problem when you run into Vanderbilt and Damian Jones.
Yeah, who is going to absolutely dominate this game. If he doesn't have 20 and 10, I'll be shocked. But that's not saying they're going to just run away with this game. Wichita State's a tough, feisty, made-for-March kind of basketball team. I'm waiting for the year they make the Final Four and go farther than that even. I don't
Obviously
know that.
Very well coached.
Yeah, Marshall's a great coach. Yeah. I don't know that this is the year when they're going to hit such a tough team.
There's just not a lot down low.
And Wayne Baldwin the fourth for Vandy is so talented. I mean, came out of nowhere and just impressed everyone this year. Vandy has way more size,
and
way more experience
than their record suggests. They played a ton of good teams. They didn't necessarily beat them, but they've played teams tough. They almost beat Kansas, and they did beat Texas A&M and Kentucky. So this is a very talented, relatively experienced team. I think they have enough to beat Wichita State.
Yep. We were talking earlier and said that we both like Wichita State a lot, but Vandy on paper just jumps out at you, especially in this game. So we're going to go with Wichita State, which then leads us to we're going to go with Vanderbilt, which leads us to Arizona against Vanderbilt. Jonah's favorite team against one of my favorite teams.
Yeah, well,
in the tournament at least.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Arizona in this tournament. I think that they are criminally underseeded at 6. They have so much talent. They have a lot to prove in this tournament with having some disappointing results in recent years. I'm a huge fan of Caleb Tarczewski. I wrote on my notes for this team, boards on boards in all caps. They're going to get a lot of rebounds. They're gonna wreck teams down low. I think that they could potentially definitely have some problems with Damian Jones. I think that Baldwin is more polished than any of their guards. So I think that this will be a pretty tough matchup actually for Arizona, but I think Arizona is just a very, very talented team.
Yeah, I like Arizona a lot too. Not as much as Jonah necessarily, but I do think the winner of this matchup has some big time Elite Eight potential, just because
With the way the rest of this bracket sets up, yeah.
But yeah, I think Damian Jones is gonna have his hands full with Tarzuski and Ryan Anderson. They rebound like crazy. Arizona's a team that's never going to be outworked, and that's kind of how Vanderbilt makes their living. So Vanderbilt's going to give them a game, but I don't think they have enough for Arizona, and I think we're going to move Arizona on to the round of 32.
So we're going to move on to the 3-14 matchup in this bracket, Miami against Buffalo.
One of our least favorite teams in Miami.
Yeah, we've both seen plenty of Miami as ACC fans, and we haven't loved what we've seen from them.
Beating Duke by 10 or whatever it was, and then losing 2 days later to North Carolina by 40 isn't exactly how you want to hang your hat.
Right.
But
Miami's a talented team. They can play fast and slow. I like a lot of what they have to offer. I just and I think they'll get past a 14-loss MAC team in Buffalo.
Definitely. Experienced, talented, and Bobby Hurley is not on the opposing sideline.
Right.
So got to give the edge to Miami.
I'm a Bobby Hurley fan.
Yeah. Very nervous about giving Miami any sort of love in this tournament just because of how they always play and always lose early. But I cannot pick Buffalo. Yeah. So we're going to move on to another pretty intriguing matchup in Iowa against Temple. Temple might be looking ahead a little bit in this game, seeing Villanova. But
Which could potentially be a problem
Yeah.
to look ahead to your rival, but I think they definitely want to see Villanova.
Definitely. They just lost Villanova, they're waiting to see them again.
Philadelphia crosstown rivals.
Iowa's a team you can't sleep on, though. They will shoot the lights out if they're feeling it. I saw them play at Maryland. Complained about the Under Armour ball, which take that as you may, but they can shoot if they're not using one of those balls. So I think looking at Temple has some good guards. DeCozy's very good NBA talent for sure. But Iowa with Utah and Jock can shoot it well, and they're great combo. The only problem with Iowa is they rely way too much on jumpers, and they're also not a very good tourney team, which I think is going to lead Jonah and I to taking Temple.
Yep, I'm comfortable taking Temple in the first round here, and I think that we're going to see them meet the 2-seed Villanova in the second round.
If that Temple-Iowa game gets fast-paced and Iowa's making shots, it could be a very long day for Temple, as they don't shoot it very well. But the way Temple plays, and Fran Dunphy's a great coach, Jonah and I don't expect that to happen. So we're going to move Temple on to the round of 32, and we're also going to move Villanova on, as we expect them to beat UNC Asheville. If any 15 seed beat a 2, UNC Asheville would be the pick, only because we don't like Villanova much, but we don't see that happening this year.
Yeah. So let's move on to the second round real quick.
Sure.
We're going to pick up until the Sweet 16. We'll preview the Sweet 16 when it's actually about to happen next week.
Yep.
But this Kansas-UConn potential matchup here is very interesting.
Definitely.
It's two teams that have had a lot of tournament success, two extremely well-coached teams. I think that Kansas is probably going to have too much for UConn here, despite how talented UConn is. I think that Perry Ellis is going to get UConn's big guys in foul trouble early, and that's going to be it.
Brima is the starting center for UConn. Great player. Always leads the nation in blocks, but he only averages 20 minutes a game, and that's solely because of foul trouble.
And if anybody can get him in foul trouble quickly,
Perry Ellis, absolutely. The pump fakes and the way they rebound is just way too much. Jonah and I both love Hamilton from UConn. I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
Rodney Purvis is a good transfer from NC State a couple years ago. UConn has great talent, but they don't have enough to beat Kansas.
It was a tough draw for UConn. I think if they got put somewhere away from Kansas, or if they had gotten as high as a 7th seed, which I think they
deserve,
which I wouldn't have blinked an eye at. I think that they would be able to get pretty far, but I think they're just running into a team that's too polished right now in
Yep,
Kansas.
agreed. So we got Kansas going to the Sweet 16, and they are going to face the winner of the matchup of the most talent so far with Maryland against Cal. NBA prospects left and right here.
Yeah, that's a super interesting matchup. This is a matchup of two teams which between them have 10 guys averaging 10 points a game.
Yeah.
So
all starters.
That's pretty incredible matchup. It's not going to be one you're going to want to miss.
Yeah, I highly suggest taking a quick nap. Try to find some bad games early on.
For the Spokane West Coast, Maryland Cal game. I think I know you like Maryland. I also like Maryland in this game. I think that Cal is a team that's going to struggle to put it all together. And Maryland has also had similar struggles, but I think that Maryland is obviously a much better shooting team. I mean, even the NBA prospects on Cal are not big shooters.
Yeah, Cal shoots at like 32, 33% from three, which is not what you want.
Yeah, I think Maryland's just going to be able to outgun these guys.
Yep, I think Cal has zero experience whatsoever. I mean, they're being led by freshmen. Even their senior never been to the tournament. This is kind of their first successful run in a long time. Maryland has Suleiman, who knows how to win, came from Duke, has it all. Trimble just came out of nowhere last year and really dominated. And I think they're poised for a potential run here if they can make some shots, get some confidence going. Kansas needs to watch out. Mm-hmm. So we have Maryland moving on to the Sweet 16 to face Kansas. But like we said, we'll hopefully talk about that matchup next week if that's what happens.
Hopefully our predictions have been correct, yes.
So now we are going to Arizona-Miami, right?
Yeah, and that is a really interesting game. This is like a team that we both subjectively like against a team that we both subjectively don't. So I really like Arizona in this game. I respect Miami's talent a lot, but Arizona's a team that's going to get this matchup done. And I'm not sure if I have as much confidence with Miami here.
Yeah, I've never been a big believer in Miami. I think Larinaga is a great coach, took George Mason pretty far, but never been able to do much in March with Miami other than winning the ACC tournament a few times. I think we both like Arizona here. Mm-hmm. I just think they have too much talent.
I think they're gonna. I think they have a chance to really beat up Miami inside.
And I also think if somehow Vanderbilt does beat Arizona, Vanderbilt can pose just as much as a threat to Miami as Arizona. So I like Arizona or Vanderbilt to get by Miami here. And,
yeah, I agree with that.
And set up a great Sweet 16 game against a winner of a Big 5 game.
Yep, so they'll be playing somebody from Philly in that Sweet 16 game in our Villanova Temple matchup, which will be a very interesting game. I think that people are justifiably a little bit hesitant to pick Villanova because they've had not a ton of success in the tournament. But I think people are underselling them a little bit as well. They're a very talented team. Ryan Arcidiacono, Josh Hart. There's a lot of talent on that roster. And they've beaten Temple very soundly this season. So while there's definitely a revenge game factor and a little bit rivalry game uncertainty, I think
for sure
that Villanova probably has the goods in that game.
Yep, I think, Brooklyn, New York at the Barclays Center, big-time stage, big-time rivalry. Two great coaches, Jay Wright, Fran Dunphy, but I think Villanova is just a better team this year.
Which would set up a all Wildcats Sweet 16 matchup for Arizona and Villanova.
We were saying earlier that Villanova, this is probably their best team since Randy Foy, which is saying a lot. That's a long time ago, and that was a very good team.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have, so from the South region, headed to the Sweet 16, we have Kansas playing Maryland, and then Arizona playing Villanova.
Yep, and we'll see how well those do next week when we talk about the Sweet 16. So let's move on down to the West region, headed up by a surprise 1 seed in Oregon.
Definitely surprising. Not much to talk about with Oregon against Holy Cross,
Orange
against Southern.
To get past losing record Holy Cross if they get through their first 4 game.
Don't expect any
Apologies
16s.
to Bill Simmons there.
Yeah, seriously. Please listen to this, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, if you ever hear this,
You're our favorite.
Yeah, we really respect Holy Cross, but we probably don't think they have enough to get past Oregon if they get past Southern.
Yeah, but we're going to move on to one of the more intriguing matchups in the region. St. Joe's against Cincinnati. 2 great teams this year. They
2
really
very disciplined teams who know how they play.
Yeah, absolutely. Stick to what they know.
Mm-hmm.
St. Joe's coming out of the A10. Great conference. I tell Jonah all the time I think it's the 3rd best conference in basketball. They just have so much.
It's a deep conference, and I think they deserve more bids than they got. I'm surprised St. Bonaventure didn't make it.
Syracuse fans, turn off the podcast in about 40 minutes because I will destroy your team. So St. Joe's, pretty solid this year. Great run in the A10 tournament.
I loved what I saw against VCU yesterday.
Absolutely. Cincinnati, we compare it to VCU a lot because they play the same way, very intense defensively, in your face all the time, and Troy Copain is just such a stud. We just don't see Cincinnati beating St. Joe's with the streak that St. Joe's is on right now because they just beat VCU in the final, and they're basically playing VCU again in a team like Cincinnati.
I just think, despite Copain, I just don't think they have the firepower to get past St. Joe's.
Yeah, on our notes we said that Cincinnati often has a hard time scoring, and we think that'll continue here, which will bring us to probably the best 5-12 matchup in the tournament here with Baylor and Yale.
Yes. So I didn't get to see Yale play this year, but they ripped through the Ivy League this year. They only lost once in the conference. Ivy League teams have shown themselves to have a fair amount of success in the tournament recently with teams from Harvard, Princeton, Cornell. All have had success. And neither of us are very big fans of Baylor. I think that's fair to say.
Definitely Baylor goes down early almost every year. Jonah knows a lot about that from his bracket last year.
Definitely didn't have them in the Final Four last year. Definitely didn't have it.
But Baylor's a very athletic team. They play quick, wear those crazy uniforms. Can't miss them from a mile away. They're basically hanging their hat on rebounding. We joke all the time that having Torian Prince as your leading rebounder is not what you want to have happen.
No.
But, leading three-point shooter is not what you want to have happen. But they definitely can play, and they showed that against Texas in the Big 12 tournament this weekend. But Yale is the team they don't want to face.
Yeah, this is a team that can slow it down, that can definitely take control of the pace. Baylor likes to play quickly, and Yale could potentially deny them the opportunity to do that. I think that Yale's going to be disciplined in a sense that Baylor often isn't, and they're 11-1 in their last 12, while Baylor's 5-7. Baylor's only 2-9 against top 25 teams this year, so they've spent a lot of time beating up on teams that weren't as strong, and I think that Yale might just have enough to get past Baylor in this game.
Yeah, Yale's the best rebounding team in terms of margin in the country, and they just play great D, solid bigs, match up very well with Baylor, and they shoot it a lot better than Baylor, has 38% as a team from three. So Jonah and I, this is our first upset that we really like in the tournament with Yale to beat Baylor.
Yep. So we're going to move on to Zach's Duke Blue Devils against UNC Wilmington. You want to start off with a little bit of Duke talk?
Sure. Duke is exhausted at this point in the season. Playing, in my opinion, should only be playing 6 guys, which is kind of incredible to think that they're a 4 seed in the tournament. But Grayson Allen is a top 4 player in the country. I don't care if you don't like him or not.
He looks like Ted Cruz. Has to be said.
Brandon Ingram is now being argued as a potential number 1 overall over Ben Simmons, which no one thought was possible. They have the talent. They just don't have the depth. Thanks to Emil Jefferson, that injury killed us this year. But
yeah, a big vulnerability for them is foul trouble and rebounding are 2 things that can get Duke in a lot of trouble. And UNC Wilmington doesn't have a lot of ability to hurt them in either area. So while we like UNC Wilmington, I mean, would have thought about an upset if they had been put against Cal instead of Duke. We just don't think this is a good matchup for them.
Right. They shoot a lot of threes, don't get into the lane much, and nobody's bigger than 6'7". All things that Duke will exploit and can exploit.
Right. So we just there's definitely big weaknesses with Duke, big strengths UNC Wilmington. We just don't think they match up well.
Right. So we have Duke hopefully getting to the to the first weekend. You'll hear a lot. You will hear a lot from me about that later on.
Yeah. Well, unless they get knocked out right away.
That's what I mean. I'm going to be saying a lot if they get knocked out right away. But we're going to go to Texas and Northern Iowa right now. Jonah and I have somewhat opposite feelings on this game. I'm a pretty big Texas fan. Jonah likes Northern Iowa a little bit more than I do. I think Northern Iowa is great. West Washpun is incredible. Beating Iowa State and UNC this year are nothing to bat your eyelashes at, but I just don't know that they have enough for Texas with Ridley playing 15 to 20 minutes, hopefully, and Isaiah Taylor is quite the stud for Texas.
Yeah, there's certainly more talent on Texas overall than there's in Northern Iowa. I'm a big fan of Shaka Smart, as I know you are as well.
Yep.
I love the way Northern Iowa's been playing lately. They play great defense. They've won 11 of their last 12 games. As you mentioned, they beat both North Carolina and Iowa State, and they've beaten Wichita State twice.
Yep.
Which is
3 tournament teams.
Which is all teams that we like a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that this is an upset that has a lot of potential to happen. There's been injury issues with both Ridley, who's only played 12 games this year, and Taylor, who's played through some foot issues and played pretty well.
Yep.
But I think that with the uncertainty surrounding Ridley and the way that Northern Iowa's been playing lately, I think I'm going to have Northern Iowa to upset Texas here.
All right, so our first disagreement, but still a game that could go either way. No denying the fact that Northern Iowa deserves to be here and is playing very well at the right time. So I have Texas going to round of 32. Jonah has Northern Iowa. But we both agree that Texas A&M is going to get through Green Bay, who it actually leads the nation in scoring and has a lot of weapons.
They're scoring 84.2 points per game, but also giving up 79.7.
And Texas A&M is playing better than they have all year right now. I know they just lost to Kentucky, but Kentucky's on a roll, and Texas A&M had them up against the ropes that whole game. So we both like Texas A&M here to set up an old Big 12 matchup against Texas in the round of 32. We're going to move on to Oregon State against VCU, 7-10 matchup that I believe should be seeded in the reverse, having VCU be the 7 and Oregon State be the 10. But either way, Jonah and I like VCU.
We think this is probably your best bet for a lower seed beating a higher seed in this whole tournament. We're big fans of VCU. They're playing the A10, which, as we've mentioned, we like a lot this year. I think that VCU might give Oregon State a lot of trouble with the way they play.
Yeah, Oregon State doesn't turn it over much, but they have one player.
You turn it over.
Yeah,
than VCU.
Absolutely. And VCU's always been the kind of team to lock down a stud, and that's exactly what Oregon State has in Gary Payton II. I don't know that they're going to lock him down, but I don't think he's going to have the success he needs to have in order for Oregon State to win. They got some size on the team, which could hurt VCU, but they're all so young. And VCU has 3 knockdown three-point shooters in Bill, Barry, Johnson, and Lewis. They're experienced, been there, done that kind of thing. Still play the same way Shaka Smart had them playing forever, which had so much success in March. And we are going to move VCU on to the round of 32.
Against an Oklahoma team that I'm a big fan of.
You meant to say Cal State Bakersfield, right? Because that's obviously going to happen.
Well, I mean, I don't want to count out Bakersfield. You saw they made the tournament.
I did. Lovely buzzer beater.
Yeah, but I think Oklahoma will probably have the juice to get through that game.
We both like Oklahoma a lot. I know they shoot the 3 a lot, but they're a team that can...
Huge fan of Buddy Hield as an NBA prospect as well as a college player.
Yeah, definitely.
So as we move on to the second round of the West region, we got a matchup here between Oregon and St. Joe's, which I think could potentially be a very interesting game.
Yeah, it's going to be more intriguing than people think. Oregon's led by Dylan Brooks, such a good power forward, really undersized, but has the skills of a guard, shoots it like no tomorrow. They have, what did I tell you, 5 guys averaging over 10, or 4 guys. Just dominate.
There's a lot of depth on this team the way they play. And I think that people are underrating Oregon to an extent because they probably didn't deserve that 1 seed, but they definitely deserved it 2, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
they just rolled Utah by 31 in the conference final. That's
which is
nothing to laugh at.
Because Utah's a very good team.
Yeah.
And so this is a very interesting matchup, though, because we like St. Joe's a lot. They're the champions of a conference that we like a lot. I think they could have been seeded higher than 8. I'm not sure. What do you think about this game?
The biggest thing in this game is St. Joe's plays the same kind of lineup that Oregon goes with. Dylan Brooks is the stretch 4, but undersized for Oregon. St. Joe's has that also, and a kid named Miles. So that's not going to work necessarily for Oregon. Oregon has much more firepower than St. Joe's, but this is 100% a game that could go St. Joe's way if they play to their ability.
Here's the thing. Almost every year, a 1 seed does not make it to the Sweet 16.
Generally losing to it. Yeah.
And I think that if it's going to happen, it's going to be this game. Because I don't see that happening with UNC Virginia or Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, UNC Providence possibly will get to that, but I think this is the potential. If Oregon gets through this, I could see them making somewhat of a run. What are you going to go with here?
I think Oregon's definitely hot coming in this game, but they don't rebound that well. They're not a great defensive team. And neither is St. Joe's, obviously. But I think, I don't know, St. Joe's has a pretty good RPI, which is why I'm surprised that they were seeded so low by the committee, because clearly that's something the committee puts a lot of emphasis on. I think I'm going to go for it and pick St. Joe's in this game.
Right. I think just the pure firepower of Oregon, just having so many guys that can score, is going to put them over the top against St. Joe's. I don't see it being a blowout. I think 1-2 point difference at the most. But I'm going to go with Oregon, and Jonah's going to go with St. Joe's. I don't think either pick is a bad pick. This is a pick that could make or break your bracket, unfortunately. But so we're going to move on to Yale and Duke, matchup of the season already. Yale played Duke at Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Duke really didn't play well against them.
Yale really competed in that game.
I think Duke was up 4 at halftime, but came out in the second half on firing on all cylinders and started to pull away a little bit. But Yale is definitely an impressive team.
Yale is a pretty tough matchup potentially for Duke. They do a lot of things that are going to cause Duke some trouble.
Rebound really well, played great D, and that's not a team Duke wants to see necessarily. Luckily, already played once, so I think Duke can learn some things from that first game. While Baylor was more athletic and better than Yale, Yale's a better team, and now I think Yale is going to run into a Duke team that just is flat out more talented, and I think is going to have just too much for Yale.
I think Duke will have enough to beat Yale. I think it's going to be a much closer game than people expect. I think Yale's a solid team. They do a lot of things that will cause Duke problems, but I think Duke's going to have enough to get through that game. They're a very talented team. I'm going to have them through to the Sweet 16.
Quick note on that one. If Duke ends up playing Baylor, watch out, because that's going to be on one day of rest against a team that rebounds and runs like crazy. Duke plays 6-7 guys, going to be exhausted, especially if they have a tough one against Wilmington. And Baylor rebounds so well. Rico Gathers could have 40 and 40 in that game, set a record in every aspect of the world. So I would take Baylor over Duke, I think, but the way we have it right now, Duke over Yale into the Sweet 16 to face Oregon.
So with this next matchup, you have Texas against Texas A&M. I have Northern Iowa against Texas A&M. I have Texas A&M getting through.
I do too.
Northern Iowa. I like what I saw against Kentucky yesterday. They couldn't close out that game in the end, but that was a very talented team they were playing. And I think that they're going to have enough to get through the winner of the Texas-Northern Iowa game, no matter who that is.
Yeah, definitely. The point guard Caruso is a lot like, it reminds me of Aaron Craft. Just knows how to lead a team and play solid in every part of the game.
Looks like he's about 45.
Still getting it done. And I think they're really just using the energy of Coach Kennedy, Parkinson's, to get through that. And they're going to make some noise in this tournament, I believe. I'm a big believer in Texas A&M.
Yeah, no, Jay Billis has them making the Final Four.
Yeah, definitely. Especially out of this region, there's just not much.
Yeah, this is definitely an up-in-the-air region here.
I think Texas A&M, I have Texas A&M, Texas, and I think that's going to be a great game. I just think Texas A&M is too many shooters.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M, I have them.
Either way. Yeah.
Sweet 16.
So then we're going to go VCU, Oklahoma. I think it's an interesting matchup.
I think that's a very interesting matchup. I think VCU could give Oklahoma problems. I think that in general, I like Oklahoma a lot. I'm a big believer in Buddy Hield. I think, as mentioned before, he's an excellent prospect for the NBA, and I think he's a great college player, averaging 25 points a game this year, which is just incredible.
Yeah, that's absurd. And I think Oklahoma has not a lot of size, but Latin and Spangler are much bigger than Mo Alley Cox for VCU, which really is going to make a difference in this game. Buddy Hield, as Jonah said, way too much for VCU. They're going to shut him down a little bit, but it's impossible to shut him down a lot. And Jordan Woodard and Isaiah Cousins with Buddy Hield make up probably the best backcourt, besides Ulis and Murray.
Yeah,
in my opinion. So that's going to leave us with the West region having Oregon play Duke for my bracket in Anaheim, and then Texas A&M play Oklahoma in the Sweet 16.
I have the same matchup, Texas A&M and Oklahoma, and I'm going to have the upset with St. Joe's against Duke in the Sweet 16.
Now we're going to move over to the East in Philadelphia with Jonah's fighting Tar Heels.
Yep.
What is a Tar Heel? No one will ever know. But Florida Gulf Coast will find out very quickly what a Tar Heel is.
Yep. I don't anticipate the same magic from Florida Gulf Coast that we saw a couple of years back. I think
not playing Georgetown.
I think this UNC team is the most complete, most disciplined UNC team that we've seen in years, possibly since the Hansbrough-led title team. Which is going to give you some indications about how far I think this team could potentially go.
Shooting might be a problem, but it's not going to be a problem.
Shooting is definitely a weakness of this team, but and we'll talk about them later on. But I think that UNC is pretty good bet to get past the Dunk City FGC team.
Then we got a really solid, probably the best 8-9 matchup in the tournament this year with USC against Providence. USC's got some great scorers. 8 guys on the team are averaging over 8 a game, which is a lot. Really have a deep team. McLaughlin and Boatwright are two of the best guards I've seen this year. Then they have a nice big guy, Jovanovic. Not going to do anything crazy, but he can get you a 10 and 10 a night. The only problem with USC is they've hit a little rough patch recently. Lost, how many have they lost in a row? Or in the last 7?
Well, they're 5-7 in their last 12, and they haven't beaten a top 25 team all year.
Yeah, so they're struggling recently. Still good, still have talent, but Providence has a lot of that too. Bentiel and Dunn are potentially the best 1-2 combo in basketball in terms of guard and forward.
Yeah, absolutely incredible combination of talent there. And I think that this USC team has definitely good years ahead of them. This is not the last time we're going to see them.
Actually led by Florida Gulf Coast's old coach.
Andy Enfield. Yeah. They don't have any senior starters. So I think that the sheer talent of Providence is going to be enough to get them by USC. While I respect this USC team a lot, we'll be hearing from them next year, and they'll probably make some noise in next year's tournament. I just think they got an underseeded Providence team at 9.
Yeah.
I think they're certainly more talented than a 9 seed.
I think Bentiel is really going to be the key to this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see him have another 40 and 10 game like he did a couple weeks ago. Providence struggles to shoot the 3 a little bit, but I don't know that they're going to really need to make that many threes against a USC team when they can get to the lane pretty easily. So we're going to have Providence move on to play UNC. We'll break that down a little bit, but we're going to move on to Indiana and Chattanooga, another 5-12 with a 5 that I personally don't like very much.
I don't like either of these teams really all that much. I like Chattanooga, except their best player has had injury troubles, Casey Jones. And so I think that while this could have been a potential upset, and I don't like Indiana very much at all, I have a hard time picking a low major team without their best player to beat Indiana.
Chattanooga beat Dayton at Dayton, which is a very tough place to play. Beat Georgia and beat Illinois. Still good wins, but not as good as Dayton. They did beat Dayton with Casey Jones, though, which was the difference maker.
They do not have anymore.
And I watched a little bit of this Williams kid on Indiana this weekend against Michigan, and although they did lose, kid can play.
Yeah,
Yogi Ferrell's a stud.
I mean, Indiana doesn't have a lot of impressive stuff on their resume. They had a big loss to Duke. They got crushed by Michigan State. So I don't think this is a particularly strong team, but I think they have enough to get past Chattanooga, missing their best player.
Yep. Get lucky with a weak team.
Yeah, they definitely got a pretty good draw for them in the first round, although they'll probably have a tougher draw in the second round, as we're going to see from this next matchup where we have the Kentucky Wildcats at a low for them 4 seed.
Yeah,
against the Stony Brook Seawolves.
As Calipari would freak out about that. Sure, he's flipping tables as we speak, but
it was a little bit surprising. They were seeded lower than Texas A&M when they beat yesterday.
Stony Brook has this kid named Warney, just had 43 and 10 in a conference final, which is unheard of. And I mean, this kid will definitely impress you, especially playing against a Kentucky team that's deep and big. But you can't beat Kentucky with one player. Kentucky has too much for Stony Brook. Ulis and Murray, as we said, that's the best backcourt in basketball, and they're only going to get better in March.
And Kentucky has made the Elite Eight all 5 times they've been to the tournament under John Calipari. I think they'll not have too much trouble getting past Stony Brook in the first round. I think Stony Brook is a team that could have surprised some people, but they got stuck with a pretty raw deal facing Kentucky in the first
all the other 4 seeds should be thanking whoever it was that made Stony Brook play Kentucky, and that they didn't see them.
Thanking them for sure. So let's take a look at this first 4 game between Michigan and Tulsa real quickly.
We hate Tulsa. That's a joke that they made the tournament.
It was an embarrassment for the committee, in our opinion, that Tulsa was chosen over several more deserving teams. Monmouth, St. Bonaventure, South Carolina, the list goes on.
But let's save people's ears from just going on and on about Tulsa.
Yeah, we won't waste your time too much on Tulsa.
They will not beat Michigan. They will not come close to beating Michigan. As Dan Dockett said, there's going to be a walk-on on Michigan who's going to have a career night because they're just going to blow out Tulsa.
Yeah, so we are.
So that's going to bring us to Michigan against Notre Dame.
And this is an upset that I like very much. I've seen a good amount of Notre Dame this year, and I have not liked it that much. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I did see them beat Duke, but they tend to have Duke's number in the last 3 or 4 years. They are streaky. They have a couple kids that can play sometimes, and sometimes you don't even know if they're on the court. Michigan, while Jonah and I would like them much better with Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson and Zach Irvin are great, great, great shooters. Maybe the 2 best shooters in this tournament.
There's not a ton outside of Walton, but I think they have enough to get past Notre Dame. I think that there's certainly a chance Notre Dame could continue to get hot, and that's what you're relying on if you're picking Michigan as well.
Yep.
But I think that Michigan has the firepower to get by Notre Dame in an upset.
Definitely. And if somehow something catastrophic happens and Tulsa beats Michigan, we promise they won't beat Notre Dame too. There's no way that's happening.
Lightning won't strike twice.
Yeah. So now we got, in my opinion, a pretty intriguing matchup. West Virginia and Stephen F. Austin.
Stephen F. Austin, always difficult out.
Oh, yeah. Won 18 conference games this year. There's one team in the nation that turns people over more than West Virginia, Press Virginia, and that is Stephen F. Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So West Virginia, meet your maker. Here they come, Stephen F. Austin, the Jackrabbits.
Yep.
Lumberjacks.
No, the Lumberjacks. South Dakota
State, right. Still weird. But Stephen F. Austin, they're solid. I mean, I like them. I also like West Virginia a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely they're going to have problems with West Virginia because Stephen F. Austin is not a big team. West Virginia is the best offensive rebounding team in the country, which is partly because they missed a lot of shots. So
Yeah.
so they're going to get some offensive rebounds off of that. But this is one where I'm very tempted to go with the upset here.
The only problem I have with Stephen F. Austin is they really don't have a lot of size.
Yeah.
And West Virginia's going to get all over the offensive glass.
Stephen F. Austin might get 6 or 7 rebounds in this game.
And although Stephen F. Austin turns a lot of people over, they played Baylor, Arizona State, and got rolled by both.
They lost to Baylor by 42 points.
Yes, and Baylor plays doesn't press like West Virginia, but they play a similar up tempo kind of game, which really scares me. And they also lost to Northern Iowa by 10, who slows it down. So that doesn't have much impact on this game, but still, that Baylor loss really scares me playing against West Virginia,
who's, in my opinion, a better team than Baylor.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're going to go with West Virginia here. We
Yep.
don't think it's going to be easy for them. We think Stephen F. Austin is going to cause a lot of trouble. That'll be probably a very interesting game to watch.
Another game where all 3 seeds should thank whoever that they don't have to play Stephen F. Austin.
Exactly. It just doesn't set up well for them in this game.
Then we have Team A and Team B, who are identical to each other, Wisconsin and Pittsburgh, in the 7-10 matchup in the East. Pittsburgh's
a little bit higher scoring. They give up a little bit more points. They both had trouble against better teams this year.
Wisconsin's hitting a nice streak right here recently, though.
Yeah, Wisconsin's definitely hitting a good stride right now. We think that Pittsburgh continues to make the tournament every year and continues to have trouble getting out of the first weekend.
Agreed.
And Wisconsin, this is their first tournament without Bo Ryan in a really long time.
Yep.
But there's still obviously no Frank Kaminsky, no Sam Decker, but there's still a lot of the talent, including Bronson Koenig, that got them to the championship game last year.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think they'll probably have enough to get past, in my opinion, a similar but less good version of themselves in Pitt.
Yeah, I think Nigel Hayes, Hap, Brown, they've been playing really good recently. I see them almost identical to young artists and Jeter on Pittsburgh. I think Robinson, the point guard for Pitt, is going to be the X factor in this game. If he makes some shots, I could see Pitt winning. I think it's going to be a very close one. But I think Wisconsin has the experience, has a similar team from last year. Obviously not as talented, but still pretty solid. And I see them winning this game by 4 or 5.
And I think we agree that'll set them up against Xavier in the following round.
Unless Damian Lillard knocks on the door, I don't see any way Weber State's going to beat
Damian Lillard
Xavier.
is not walking through that door, in the paraphrase of Rick Pitino. But so yeah, we're gonna have Xavier advance past Weber State, and that's gonna take us to our first second round matchup, a very interesting second round matchup.
One that probably makes you pretty nervous.
One that makes me very nervous, between UNC and Providence. And I think that, as I mentioned before, this is a really talented, really disciplined North Carolina team, which we've never had trouble with talent in the past, but we've definitely had a lot of trouble with execution and having our players play up to their potential. I think that this is not going to be an easy matchup for UNC by any stretch. I think that, obviously, we mentioned before Bentel and Chris Dunn, 2 NBA level talents, and it's going to be difficult for UNC to overcome them. I think that UNC is definitely a deeper team than Providence.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Joel Berry's been coming on real strong recently. Marcus Page starting to hit some shots. I like the defense UNC plays. I think they can keep Chris Dunn in front of him a little bit. Bryce Johnson's so big, so long. I think he can at least contend with Ben Teal.
Yeah, I think if he can even neutralize Bentel, if those two cancel each other out, which I think is definitely something that could happen, I think that UNC's overall backcourt play can outdo Chris Dunn alone.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't see Providence knocking down 12 threes in this game, so I like UNC.
If it were Providence down in the Oregon bracket or even in the Virginia bracket, I'd strongly consider having them upset a 1 seed there, but I think UNC's probably going to have too much.
Especially in your backcourt of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Exactly. That's basically a home game for UNC.
Then we got a team I hate against a team that is on fire right now, which is Indiana against Kentucky in a 4-5 matchup in Des Moines, Iowa. Kentucky is rolling on all cylinders.
They just have so much more talent than Indiana.
Yeah.
I think Kentucky's underseeded, and Indiana, I mean, you got to give them a 5 seed based on their resume, but I think they're a pretty weak 5 seed, and I think that Kentucky's firepower is just going to be way too much for Indiana.
Definitely. Indiana loses almost the first round or second round every single tournament. There's no way Yogi Ferrell can contend with Tyler Ulis and Jamal Murray. They're just too good. Make too many shots. Kentucky's too big, too deep. Bye-bye, Indiana.
Which would set up a very, very interesting UNC-Kentucky Sweet 16 matchup.
Champions Classic.
Everyone who is not a UNC fan should pray for. Now, next we got a Michigan-West Virginia matchup, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, you like this one a little more than I do. I like West Virginia in this game just because I think they can get into Michigan and turn them over without Karis LeVert. And if West Virginia hits shots literally in any game, they're going to have a pretty solid chance to win.
And West Virginia is certainly not known for their shooting, but they're going to create a lot of havoc. They're going to cause a lot of trouble for a team like Michigan. I think that Michigan has a lot of upset potential in them, and I think that they will be able to overcome kind of a streaky team like Notre Dame. West Virginia is pretty consistent.
Yeah, you know what you're going to get from them.
And I think that this game is going to be very close. I think it'll come down to the wire in this game. I think Michigan's going to give West Virginia everything they can handle, but I think ultimately West Virginia would probably come through and win this game.
Yep. So then we're going to move on to Wisconsin against Xavier. I'm much higher on Xavier than Jonah is.
I'm not too high on Xavier.
I did see them play at home, which definitely helped them. Xavier's a very tough place to play. But I'm a huge fan of their freshman point guard, Sumner. I like Miles Davis, cool as the other side of the pillow. I think they just have a lot of talent. They have a good amount of experience, and they just want it. They want it bad. They're finally getting some respect here. And I think they're going to have too much for a Wisconsin team who's very experienced, but they don't have the same talent that Xavier has.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Wisconsin this game. I'm a big believer in this Wisconsin team and what it does. You have a lot of the same core that went far last year. These guys had been here before, even if they're under a different coach. They won 11 of their last 13 games. Before the unfortunate Big Ten tournament loss to Nebraska, which gives me a little bit of pause. But I think Wisconsin has the goods to pull off an upset here and beat Xavier in the second round.
So that wraps up our East region. We have UNC facing off against Kentucky in quite the matchup in the Sweet 16. Jonah's going to be a little nervous about that one. Probably hopes that Kentucky gets knocked off somewhere. Let's go Stony Brook.
Fingers crossed.
And then we got West Virginia against Xavier. Jonah has West Virginia against Wisconsin.
All right, and let's move on to our final region, the Midwest, where we're going to start off with
UVA in a blowout.
UVA in a blowout over Hampton. I think this is a very strong Virginia team, probably the strongest Virginia team that we've seen, even under this very good run under Tony Bennett.
Definitely.
I think that
Malcolm Brogdon's
Brogdon, and
top three.
I'm a huge fan of Perrantes as well. I think he's one of the best guards in the ACC this year.
Definitely. Buddy Hield and Denzel Valentine are probably 1A, 1B, and Brogdon is probably 2 in my mind.
Yep, I think that's certainly a fair look at it.
So we're going to go to the 8-9 matchup, one that I don't think has much behind it in Texas Tech Butler.
I'm not a huge fan of either of these teams.
Texas Tech as a kid, Zach Smith, he's very good. I mean, he's athletic, 6'8", double-double machine, can really play. They had a hot stretch towards the middle of the season, but other than that, I mean, they've had nothing going for them. I'm even surprised they're in the tournament, to be honest with you.
And they have surprised a lot of people even by getting to the tournament, and you definitely give them credit for that. They've had a strong season, beating some decent teams, especially early on, but they're not playing as well lately. I like Butler out of the Big East. I like the Big East a lot this year. You like the A-10 more, but I'm a big fan of this year's Big East. I think Butler did a good job playing well there. I like Roosevelt Jones a lot.
Yeah, Roosevelt Jones and Kellen Dunham, I feel like they've been on the team since Gordon Hayward, so I don't know what their age is, but it feels like it's been quite some
Roosevelt
time.
Jones has been around, I think, since I started high school.
Yeah, so
he's been around a while.
That just speaks to their experience and their knockdown three-point team.
These are guys who've been built on tournament teams at Butler.
Absolutely.
They've been taught by Gordon Hayward, by Sheldon Mack, guys who've been there before, and, NBA players.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job program building here.
They had a slight drop-off after Brad Stevens, but way better than we expected they were going to be.
Their new coach, Chris Holtman, has definitely gotten them to a similar level that they were under Stevens, and I think that this is a very well-run team. I think they have enough to get past Texas Tech.
Definitely. Don't expect the blowout, but Baylor probably by 10. Butler by 10. Purdue, Little Rock, 5-12. I am interested in this one.
Yeah, I can't say I'm not interested in this one. Purdue played Michigan State very tight, and I give them a lot of credit for that. As you mentioned before to me, outside of this podcast, they've had trouble closing games out. Yep. I don't love this upset as much as you do. I like Purdue a little bit more than you do, but I've heard a lot of people talking about this Little Rock team, and as I've looked into them a little bit more, they're a pretty strong team. They beat San Diego State on the road. They beat Tulsa.
Very good win.
Who's, if not a deserving tournament team, still a tournament team.
Yes, absolutely.
Still a pretty decent win for a school like Little Rock. This is a tough one for me to pick. Purdue did beat Michigan State this year. They beat Michigan twice. They beat Wisconsin twice. They blew out Pitt. They beat Maryland.
Yeah.
They have a resume that's nothing to sneeze at.
The one thing about that Maryland game, they were up 18 at home with 8 minutes to go, and they were down 2 with 45 seconds to go. Maryland should have beat them, no questions asked. Choked at the end, but that's just a little bit of a note about how Purdue does not finish games well. Yeah, Arkansas Little Rock, there's scorers everywhere on their team. I mean, there's not one person that averages over 13, but then the rest of the team averages like 5 anyways. They shoot 39% from 3. They got 2 kids that are 6'10", 6'11", that can they're not going to outplay A.J. Hammonds because he's this beast, but they're going to contend with them. If they stay out of foul trouble, I really like Arkansas Little Rock in this game just because I don't think Purdue can close it out.
I'm gonna still take Purdue in this game a little bit slightly reluctantly. I'm gonna hope they don't burn me on it, but I just think that Purdue has definitely had trouble closing out games, but I think that they have the firepower to jump out to a lead big enough in this game that they'll be able to hold on.
Definitely possible. So that brings us to Iowa State, Iona.
I don't love either of these teams.
Yeah, really not a big fan. If this was Monmouth, I'd be all over them over Iowa State.
So would I, absolutely.
AJ English for Iona is a very good point guard. He struggles to shoot the ball, and they were not shooting well against Monmouth at all, which I'm surprised that they beat them still. They're played just like Iowa State. They love to get up and down. They're going to push the tempo. And Iowa State, I think with Niang and Morris, just have a little bit too much experience and score just a little bit too well.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this Iowa State team, but I do think that they're going to have enough to get past Iona. Iona has not even played a top 25 team this season.
And although Iona won 12 of the last 13 and Iowa State lost 4 of the last 7, Iowa State lost to all good teams, and Iona did not play a good team other than Monmouth. So I think this is going to be a 90 to 85 kind of game, one where it would be fun to watch.
Not a lot of defense in this game.
Yeah, no defense. Which brings me to...
This is a game that we've both had a lot of trouble with.
Yeah, I am in love with Seton Hall, but I also really like Gonzaga. 2 teams I was looking forward to possibly making a Cinderella run with here in my bracket before it came out.
I was hoping to go a long way with both of these teams and have them surprise people, but unfortunately I'll only be able to do that with one of them.
Yeah.
It's been a more difficult season for Gonzaga than they're used to. There's a lot of talent
26
on
and
this
7.
team. Right, exactly, which shows you the standards that Gonzaga has set for themselves lately. obviously, there's Kyle Wiltshire, but I'm an even bigger fan of Sabonis. I
Yeah,
think.
climbing up draft boards as we speak.
Yeah, and he's related to Arvydas Sabonis, right? Is that his son?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know. This is a very difficult game to pick. I love Isaiah Whitehead.
Yeah,
not
so
only as
good.
a player, but he is a hungry dude. He was not. He was not super heavily recruited. This team was not expected to perform as well as it has. This team has a chip on its shoulder. This is the first time they've been to the tournament in a while. They were picked to finish last in the Big East by almost everyone.
Yeah.
And they won the Big East. So
They're in my opinion, they're like the Georgia State, but way better of last year. Just everyone loves the coach. Whitehead's an incredible player. If anyone saw his interview, they're going to go far, and that's all he has to say about that. And they just want to win bad and are playing with so much confidence, which is really scary for a tournament team. The one problem I have with Seton Hall is they average 14 turnovers a game, which is pretty high. Average is like 11 to 12. 14's a lot. But they're not playing West Virginia. They're playing Gonzaga. And Gonzaga's not going to press them. They're not going to force them to turn the ball over. But they can shoot it. And Wiltshire, if he's hot, can lead this team. And Sabonis is another great player. Probably two of the three best players on the floor, minus Whitehead.
yeah, I love both of these teams. I would be sad to see one of them leave so
Definitely.
early. I'm going to go with Seton Hall picking this game, although it pains me a lot to not pick Gonzaga. Seton Hall, we just saw beat two top 5 ranked teams on their way to the Big East Championship, beating both Xavier and Villanova.
Yep.
And I think that this team is hungry. While there's a lot of top-line talent in Gonzaga for sure, I'm going to go with Seton Hall in this game.
And I think I'm going to disagree with Jonah and go with Gonzaga.
I can't fault anybody for picking either of these
Just
teams.
been there before, done that. I know they've never exactly hit their potential in terms of the March Madness, but I think they are just going to have a little bit too much in Wiltshire. I don't know that Seton Hall has the bigs to play with him. They haven't really seen a big guy that can score like that yet this year. But Perkins against Whitehead is going to be a matchup to watch there. I think Whitehead's going to eat him alive because Perkins hasn't played the better guards very well this year, giving up 23 and 11 to Nick Moore from SMU. But I like Gonzaga just a little bit. Then we're going to go to Utah, Fresno State.
This is a pretty interesting game, I think.
It really is. Nobody's giving it a lot of attention, but it has some potential.
I think Utah is they're a very strong team. They beat Duke. They've beaten Cal twice, although they have lost to Oregon all 3 times they played.
By a lot.
But I really like Utah center. He's been climbing up draft boards. Jacob Podol. That's how you pronounce it. Yeah. He's really, really good big man. He's the best player Utah's had since Andrew Bogut. And I think they'll probably have enough to get past Fresno State, even though Fresno is playing very well right now, and they do a good job holding onto the ball.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Utah's got some experience. They've been there the last couple of years, played pretty well. They beat a 12 seed last year. I can't think of who it was, but they were pretty good. I think with Podol's too big, and I like their guard, Jordan Taylor, a lot. So I think Utah's going to get by them just a little bit there. Which is going to bring me to my least favorite team in the NCAA tournament. Even worse than North Carolina, Syracuse. Why? Why is Syracuse in this tournament?
Yeah, we should put in that we're from upstate New York.
Yes.
We're from Saratoga Springs. There's a lot of Syracuse fans around here that were very pleasantly surprised that Syracuse made the tournament, especially not even having to play a playing game.
Exactly. I am currently sitting at the kitchen table with my face palm in my palm, just like lovely Jim Boeheim does for every single press conference, hating my life, just like Jim Boeheim. Just kidding. Dayton's going to blow them out, and we're not going to have to worry about Syracuse anymore.
Yeah, I think that Syracuse does not have enough to get past Dayton. Dayton from the A10 that we've said 8 or 9 times now is a strong conference. Dayton hasn't beaten a top 25 team this year. Although
luckily they don't have to
they did beat Iowa when they were outside the top 25, and they beat Vanderbilt as well. So they've beaten some strong teams, but doesn't matter all that much they haven't beaten a top 25 team because Syracuse is very
Not even close.
top 25 team.
Dayton has a lot of guards that can shoot it, and that zone is going to get torn apart. And I love Dayton's defense. I don't think Benajay is going to get going. Cooney's a joke. He's going to break the backboard more times than he's going to hit the rim.
Yep.
Bye-bye Syracuse, thank God.
We are not fans of the Syracuse team.
Yeah. Which is going to bring us to Michigan State. Sorry, Middle Tennessee State, but you potentially have just ran into the best team in the tournament.
And they have a chip on their shoulder after having not gotten 1 seed.
Absolutely.
They were expecting it. I thought they fully deserved it.
I still think Denzel Valentine's in conversation for the Player of the Year. I don't know that he's going to get it over Buddy Hield, but he's definitely deserving.
Yeah,
regardless.
Buddy's got that flashy 25 points a game. But Denzel Valentine has gotten 2 triple-doubles this season. We'll talk about them a little bit when we talk about the second-round matchup. But
going to go to Virginia Butler here now.
That's an interesting game. I mean, I like Virginia a lot.
They play the same, really.
Yeah, they're similar styles. They're both they're both going to try to lock it down. I mean, I think Virginia gives up less than 60 points a game.
Yeah, that's just insane.
And I think Virginia's going to get past Butler in this game. I think it'll be a better game than people expect.
Yeah,
I think it'll be one of those where, like, Virginia's got, like a 7 or 8 point lead the whole game. Butler's hanging around, letting him pull away. But I think Virginia is going to...
I think Anthony Gill is going to be the X factor in that one just because he's so big and athletic. It's going to be tough for Butler to hang with that.
Yeah, more so than anybody Butler has.
Definitely. And Malcolm Brogdon, as we said before, he's incredible. So we're going to go to, I have Arkansas Little Rock against Iowa State. Jonah has Purdue against Iowa State.
Yep, I'm not in love with either of these teams.
Yeah, that's why I tried to get one of them out of there early.
Yeah. Are you going to go with Little Rock to the Sweet 16? Are you going to ride them all the way there?
No, I don't think I am. I mean,
you're going to reluctantly pick Iowa State.
Yeah, but I think I could see both the teams losing the first round, which is the problem.
Yeah, I seriously considered having each of these teams lose and ultimately thought they would be able to pull it off. I think that I don't know. This is an interesting game. They both have won games they should have lost and lost games they should have won. I think that
size is going to be a big matchup in that one.
I've been burned by both of these teams in the past. I had Iowa State going all the way to the Elite Eight last year. That did not happen. But I think that it's an interesting matchup because Purdue's a very good rebounding team, and Iowa State struggles with that.
Purdue's going to try to slow it down. Iowa State's going to be pushing tempo.
Right, and I think that Niang's going to be difficult to deal with. But I think that the 2 7-footers that Purdue has is going to make it difficult for Iowa State to get a lot of momentum going, and I'm going to have Purdue getting past Iowa State there.
Quick note on those 7-footers. There was an interview with, what's his name, Painter? Yeah, Matt Painter.
Yeah. Why
they don't play those 2 7-footers together, being Haas and Hammonds. And turns out when they played them together, they averaged over a turnover possession, which is just a little bit incredible. I don't even know how it's possible to average more than 1 turnover possession, but per 40 minutes. But that's what they did.
Oh yeah.
So if they could play them together, I think they'd be unstoppable. But obviously, that's not going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Iowa State's not as deep as I'd like.
Yeah.
Purdue's pretty well-rounded, and I like the Big Ten a lot this year. So I'm going to have Purdue getting the Sweet 16, but I don't think they're that strong a team.
And I just reluctantly picked Arkansas Little Rock over Iowa State solely because Arkansas Little Rock is the 3rd best defensive team in the country, giving up just 59.9 points per game, which is better than Virginia right now. But
yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup for Virginia. That'll be like a 45-43 ball game.
I 110% could see Arkansas Little Rock getting by Purdue. Purdue getting by Arkansas Little Rock and going all the way to face Virginia. I like those 2 teams better than I like Iowa State, but gut feeling, I'm going to go with Little Rock as an upset. They are 29-4. No, they haven't played many good teams, but still.
All right, so that brings us to, you have Utah, Gonzaga. I have Utah and Seton Hall. And I think whoever I had picked in the Seton Hall Gonzaga game, I would have had getting past getting past Utah.
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to have Seton Hall going to the Sweet 16 here.
Yeah, I have Gonzaga beating Utah as well.
And I would have had Gonzaga as well had I picked them in the first round. I think both of those teams have the goods to beat Utah.
We're not discrediting Utah at all. They're a good basketball team, but I just think Seton Hall and Gonzaga both are so hot right now.
Yeah, right. And by not picking Gonzaga, I'm not discrediting them, and you're not discrediting Seton Hall at all.
Not at all. I would easily have Seton Hall beating Utah with Isaiah Whitehead going off.
And then finally, our last second-round matchup of this podcast, we've got Dayton and Michigan State, which is an interesting game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be way better than people think.
I'm going to have Michigan State winning it.
Definitely,
I think they're a really strong team, but Dayton is definitely going to keep it close.
Yeah, it's going to make a lot of people really mad when this game comes down to like 2 minutes left and it's tied because brackets are going to be starting to be shredded.
Yeah, people are going to get antsy on their brackets.
But I just think the experience of Michigan State, Denzel Valentine is so good. Tom Izzo always makes the Final Four. They're going to just have a little bit too much for Dayton. And yeah, that Michigan State's going to get that one. Which is going to have my Midwest bracket has Virginia against Arkansas Little Rock, and such a stunner in the Sweet 16. And then Gonzaga against Michigan State. And Jonah, what's yours?
I have Virginia against Purdue, which is a game I think Virginia shouldn't have that much problem with. And I have Seton Hall against Michigan State, although I could very easily see Gonzaga or Utah being in Seton Hall's spot there, which I think will also be a great game. Your Gonzaga-Michigan State game would be an incredible
Fun
game
to watch for sure. Yeah.
So that's going to do it for our podcast today.
Yeah, we're going to have one next week that's going to break down, hopefully, our perfect picks. One of us will be perfect, I hope. And then we're going to go into...
One of us will be horribly wrong.
Then we're going to go into the Elite Eight a little bit and break down what's happened so far.
Yeah, we'll be discussing next week how we feel about the Sweet 16 matchups that'll be happening.
Definitely.
And we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to seeing the first two rounds of the greatest sporting event on earth.
Yeah, by far.
And we'll see you all next week.
Yep. Should be up on Tuesday next week, so tune into the page again, and thanks for listening.